Hello, good evening, and welcome back. Should the government be able to force you to associate with people that you don't want to? That's the broader philosophical question from this hilarious headline. Court rules Muslim doctor who refused to shake woman's hand as she presented him with citizenship certificate has lost the right to become a German. Yes, this was a Lebanese gentleman who married his Syrian wife about 10 years ago, who had passed the citizenship test with the highest marks after completing his medical studies, and he'd been in Germany for 13 years, but because of his beliefs, believed to be Salafist beliefs, minority in Germany, one of the many, that he said to her, "I will never take another woman's hand," and he meant that incredibly literally, and therefore, when he was supposed to shake the woman's hand who would give him the citizenship certificate, he did not, because that went against his beliefs. And obviously there's, on the face of it, it's ridiculous. It's like, hey, you've been here 13 years, it seems as if you like this country and you want to be here, so why don't you just play the game, go for it, and it'll all be fine. That is a very straightforward reading into it, very matter of fact. However, the broader question is, of course, should he have to? If you wish to not have to interact with somebody, should you have to? And where is the line? That the courts have said in Germany that, well, this is a very common thing, and that if the applicant refuses to shake hands for gender-specific reasons, which are incompatible with the Constitution, there is no integration into German living conditions. They said that he's stopped shaking hands with anybody since 2018, but this was supposed to be just a tactical step to improve his chances of getting citizenship. So basically, his thought is, well, I've agreed that I'm not going to do this with women because that's my belief, and that's not acceptable. Okay, fine. Then I won't do it with anybody. I'll treat everybody equally and not shake anybody's hand. Of course, with COVID, no one's shaking anyone's hand anymore. Not allowed to. That's not social distancing. However, they say, handshakes are common greeting and farewell rituals that take place regardless of the social status, gender, or other personal characteristics of the people involved and go back centuries, the judges said. While other greetings, such as kisses and high fives, are also available, they do not come with the same sense of formality and legal validity, the court said. The judges also predicted that handshakes would withstand the coronavirus pandemic, in which physical touching has been kept to a minimum to reduce infections. And the man can now appeal the decision to a federal court. So, seeing as it's supposed to be a new normal, I thought the idea was that it will not withstand the coronavirus crisis. But the judge seems to be drawing the line at handshakes to say, yes, you should be forced to shake somebody's hand, but not forced to high-five somebody, so you're within your legal right to leave someone hanging, and you don't have to kiss someone. And I think they knew where that was going, so yes, fair enough. So does that therefore mean that when we've seen various incidents of people being snubbed, if you will, by not shaking somebody's hand, and the way around that is if you know somebody's going to want to shake your hand, then just hold a drink or hold something in your hand so that when they come over, say, oh, well, I can't shake your hand because my hands are full. Oh, what a terrible coincidence. And that's the way around it, to try and be more subtle about it, or, keep your arms crossed, but that's a bit too obvious in that instance. That it's something to show that, I suppose you don't respect that person, but at what level then are you forced to shake somebody's hand? And on a broader point, should you have to associate with anybody at all on any occasion? Now, on the flip side, you can say, well, we are concerned that you've got these peculiar beliefs that don't integrate with Germany, in which case we don't want you here. So what Germany is saying is that if you want to be in our group, which is our country, then you abide by our laws and rules and traditions, which include shaking somebody's hand. If you don't want to, we are not going to force you to associate with us. You are free to leave. And in fact, you're not welcome to stay. So that is a simple way to do it, which is trying to kind of do the private sense of in-group preference in a way, and just say, if you don't want to be here, you don't have to be here, because we're not going to force you. So we're not forcing you to associate with anybody, because if it isn't something that you're happy to do, you're more than welcome to leave. we're not going to re-educate you like they do in China, and instead it's up to you. Now, of course, as far as the broader sense goes, this does also extend to civil rights movements, and saying that, if you disagree with somebody, perhaps ideologically, of course you probably don't want to work with them, and you're within your right to boycott businesses, for example, if they're doing things that you don't support. Sainsbury's is a fine example of this at the moment, with their racial segregation going on, funnily enough. But that's perfectly acceptable. You can boycott them. But if somebody were to say, well, yeah, I don't want to do business with them, I don't wish to support them, I don't wish to encourage them to do whatever it is that they're doing, that seems fine, except for the reason that some reasons are not permissible. And so it's essentially down to just saying, I don't like them, we don't get on, it's an ideological thing, and that's it. Because of course then somebody could say, it's because of racism, because of these colours of the people, and in which case you have to prove that it isn't, which is very peculiar, instead of the burden of proof being on the accuser, and then you're in an incredibly difficult position. Easily resolved, of course, to say, no, if you do not wish to associate with anybody, then you do not have to. If you are racist, and you do not wish to associate with somebody based on their ethnicity, then you don't have to. You don't have to hide it, you're not going to go to prison for it. That's fine. If you want to say, no whites allowed, no blacks allowed, no browns allowed, no yellows allowed, no blues allowed, whatever, no reds allowed, by all means do that. But bear in mind, that kind of sign and rule for your own private premises will probably drive away a load of other possible customers as well. And I think the relationship, the old group with Frank Sinatra was a good example of this, where they were saying, like, well, we don't allow blacks. It's like, well, then we're not coming in either, in which case you're losing our custom. We're not going to support you. We've got friends of the ethnicity that you're banning, in which case we don't want to go there because we want an option to be able to take our friend there that you're not allowing. In which case it doesn't even have to be a constant conscious thought of boycotting. It's just, well, if you don't want him here, we're not going to be here either because we want to be with him, and we'd rather be with him than patronize your business. In which case, easy free market decision. If there is a particular clique or group that wishes to not associate with particular people, then of course they don't have to, but they're going to find it very difficult to get on in life. But hey, that's down that's down to individual thoughts, because on the flip side, there is a concern that other groups will enter a country like Germany or the UK as well and set up their own businesses and say no whites allowed, no British allowed within Britain. And that, of course, does not sit well. So if you can't say no whites allowed, then you can't say no blacks allowed either, in which case, where does it end of how much you have to associate with people? And just finally, to bring in a separate thought, given that this is gender specific, of course, you've got the concerns about the Me Too movement and false accusations, of course, and what is it that's okay to do with a woman. For example, asking them out for coffee in an elevator or a lift could then be seen as sexual harassment or even sexual assault, as we've already seen, of course. And therefore, you've got kind of the Mike Pence strategy for America, which is just, I do not want a one-on-one meeting with a woman. If a employer or a boss or a manager has to have a woman in a room and it's just the two of them, then the door has to be open. But of course, they would much rather that somebody else was there as an intermediary in order to prove that nothing untoward happened, because that is necessary given the Me Too movement. And that's understandable that, hey, you don't want to have to associate with somebody because you're concerned about what they're going to say about you afterwards, and you don't want to be forced to have to touch somebody. But where does this stop? Because of course you've got customs and cultures, and if someone's not integrating, that's a pretty obvious answer. But you're also going to have Germans, perhaps germaphobe Germans, who do not wish to touch people, especially given the current climate. Are they then not German anymore? And it is a whole kerfuffle of where this goes. Where do you respect people's individual choices? And when do you say, no, we are a collective, this is where we stand? Personally, I'm very much an individualist, and it is really as simple as that. You do have the nation state, but for the most part, just let people go on with it. The government is there to protect the laws and the borders, to stop international threats, of course, and that is about it. Other than that, they can leave you alone to get on with your life. But as always, I'm always intrigued to hear what you guys think down below. Do you think that there should be more kind of hazing rituals to say, well, if you want to be a citizen, then there are these common values and you have to abide by these? Even though, of course, these are only common values and not held by every native person within this country, these are the commonly agreed upon principles, in which case you have to assimilate to these common ones to make the majority an even greater majority and to just squeeze out the minority who cares about those minorities. Or do you think, well, no, it's individual liberty, and that is where you're going to have the most prosperous and successful countries anyway, and that's going to work best for everybody? Or do you think that's too globalist? Especially with this, I'm very intrigued to hear what you guys have to say below. So, as always, let me know what you think down below. And thank you so much to everybody for making yesterday's video so viewed, being the second most viewed video on the channel, and it will be the first before too long, I'm sure. So please do like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let's get that subscriber count up, as well as these views. Share this around if you think other people will be interested. And as always, until next time, have a good one.